So today's talk is about TDD, which is test-driven development on Android, and that too using Spek specifically for Kotlin, right? So about today's speaker, who's Rivu Chakraborty, he is with us today, and most of you, I think, who all of you are aware of who Rivu is, but to those of you who are new here today and who are joining us for the first time, Rivu Chakraborty, he is an Android developer and a strong advocate of Kotlin. His passion for Android and Kotlin reflects in the books he has authored, like Reactive Programming in Kotlin, Functional Kotlin, and books on data structures and coroutines. You should definitely check out some of his work that he has published. Rivu works at BYJU'S, which is a mobile learning app, and he's also an instructor at Castor.io. So you can check out some of his material there as well. And he's a key figure in developer communities around Calcutta. He has also spoken in various developer communities around India. Today, he is here, like I said, to talk about test-driven development using Spek. So, Rivu, without further ado, please get started.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. So let us get started. So today we'll be discussing on test-driven development, and I think I can skip this slide about my own introduction. So I work at BYJU'S and we are hiring. I like to term myself as a community person and an avid learner. And I authored 3 books in Kotlin. So what is TDD? That's our main goal. Like today we want to learn about TDD. So let me first tell you a bit why I chose this topic. So I have seen a lot of Android developers nowadays write test cases, right? But when you ask them about, hey, do you follow TDD? They says, yeah, we want to follow TDD, but not sure how to follow. Or, they are basically confused that what to do. And it's actually wrong to say it as they, because it was me a couple of years ago. I was not sure how to do TDD. I was confused that if I write the test first and then the implementation, then code won't compile. There's no failing test is another thing and code not compiling is another thing, right? So today I will try to break those stigmas and get you started on TDD. Let's get started. So the first thing is that we write the test cases first and then the implementation, right? And we want our test cases to fail. That's by choice, right? So how would we know about the test cases if we don't know about the implementation, right? So we have to know about the implementation first. We have to design the flow. We have to structure it. So some people prefer drawing it out. Some people prefer just writing it right away. Do what you prefer. You have to first decide on the flow. Then you need to write the tests accordingly. Then you need to write the implementation. So first thing is, as I said, we have to create an interface. For example, if we are testing a repository, right? We'll create the repository interface first. Then we need to create the implementation of repository. But have a look there. I haven't written any code at all. Just everywhere is to do. And then all the test cases. I know you can't see the test cases. It's like I have prepared the slide just to give you an overview. During live coding, I will show you the whole code. So yeah, I have written a few test cases here, and all of them are failing right now. and then you need to write the implementation, and uh, when you write the implementation, the test cases should pass. So that's our goal. Now you may ask about why we are talking with Spek, right? What's the point? So basically, Spek is a specification testing platform, and it lets you group the tests easily, and it makes it easy to read and write the tests when the tests are grouped. Uh, there are a few gotchas around Spek, right? So it's sometimes really unreliable. So, but as I'm using it for over a year now, I can see that it's improving with each release. So earlier it was Spec 1, it was like I didn't like that much. Then Spec 2.0 came, and then Spec 2.1 is in alpha currently, and that's much better than 2.0. So yeah, if you want my recommendation, then I would say that you can start using Spec on your side projects right away, and so that you can get familiar with the testing DSL. You can get familiar how to group test cases, and yeah, by the time 2.1.0 comes, you can start adding it on your prod project, right? So yeah, as I said, we'll be developing an app today. So let's get started. I will stop the sharing and I will share my Android Studio. I hope everyone can see my code, right?
Yes, can see.
Yeah, that's great. So what we'll be building today is basically a newsletter app. Just consider Android Weekly or Kotlin Weekly, right? I guess we all follow either Android Weekly or Kotlin Weekly or some kind of newsletter, right? So what does these newsletters do? They basically gets all your, like, all the articles. They collates all the articles, uh, creates a list of them. They have their link, they have their title, they write a bit of about info about that article, what they feel like it sometimes, and sometimes details of what the article will be discussing, and they publish it, right? So this is the article class that we will be talking on today. So yeah, you can see actually I haven't wrote any code. So yeah, nowadays I use Compose for all the demo apps. So I also have a Compose here. I have a live data here that will be published by the view model, viewmodel.states. So yeah, and if you look at the view model code as well, let me go to the view model code. Uh, model, yeah, so here's the articles view model, and you can see that here is to do as well. Everything is to do, nothing is implemented. Now view model depends on repository. Yeah, there's an action cursor here that I will be coming back later. So let me go to the repository. This is the repository implementation. No code is here, and here's the repository interface. So first we'll be writing the repository implementation, and we'll write the test cases, right? So I already have the test cases. What are they? So first test case I have is that it actually tests the get articles method. So for get articles method, we have a group of test cases. So basically, in coin, in sorry, let me show you a example first. Here's an example. So in Spek, what you can do is that you can group the test cases like this. You have a describe block. You describe block is basically a group of test cases. Inside describe, you can have multiple context. It is a subgroup. For example, in a method, you want to test two scenarios. So for those two scenarios, you have two context, right? And then you have it. It basically is a group of tests. So in a context, you set up everything for that context, and then you group some tests and test it, right? And if we run it, this will pass. So you can see actually how they organize this. So here you can see this is the group that you can see here. Inside it, there's a subgroup on example subgroup, right? And then inside that, you can see the example test. So this is the file group subgroup test. So it actually helps you a lot to organize it, organize the test cases. So yeah, coming back to our repository test cases. Here we have the describe block. Uh, this describe block only tests the get articles. So what is get articles supposed to do? So here you can see we have a local data store, we have a remote data store, right? So first thing you need to decide is that which way you want the data. So what I want is that, so if data is in a local data store, I want the data to come from local data store first, and then sync it with remote data store and have the updated data. That's all I want right now. So if the local data store is empty, what I want? I want to keep showing user loading, and only when we have the data from remote data store, I want to show the data. When the remote data store gives error, but we have some data in local data store, what I want? I want only to show the data from local data store and ignore the error from remote data store. Ignore it completely, right? So here I have written tests for all those cases. I am using Mockito to mock my dependencies. So some people prefer mocking and some people prefer faking. If you ask my personal opinion, I prefer mocking, but I agree that mock can be a huge headache sometimes. So yeah, I yeah, I am totally okay with it. Like I believe if you use mock correctly, then you can avoid those headaches. But yeah, it's up to your personal opinion. And if you prefer faking, you can use fake here, no worries. And here I am using memoist. So as you can see, this is not your complete class, right? We are not writing anything on the class. We are calling the constructor of Spek and providing it a lambda. This is basically everything here is basically inside a lambda or nested lambdas, right? So what we do in day-to-day basis is that we when we write test cases, we often use lazy, right? Or we often use a before block. At that before, then setup, then we create this test subject, right? So here we are using memories to achieve that. We don't have to write at that before or anything. Uh, we just use the memoist, and what it will do, it will create this repository instance for each of the groups. So for this describe, it will create it once. If we have another describe, it will create it again, right? So that's what memoist does. Uh, hello.
Yeah, review. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is my first test case. So yeah. So for getting the I test run take successful screenshot I had put as a true everywhere, but these are the actual test cases. So get articles here returns a flowable, right? So because what we want one emission from the local database, and then we want the next emission from the remote, right? So that's why it is flowable. And yeah, so we are using Rx test observers here. So you can basically call dot test after any flowable or observable, and it will return you related either test subscriber or test observer. So test subscriber basically works with flowable, and test observer works with single observable and all those things. So if none of the articles are there, right? If both data store are empty, we want our empty result set exception as an emission. It should not throw any exception. It should emit empty result set exception, right? So here I don't have any code yet. And yeah, let us have a look at data stores as well. So this is the local data store. So ideally we should call DAO from here. We should have a dependency of DAO from here. But to keep it simple, I left out all those things. So let's consider, so let's have a list here. I will be implementing here as only. So let's have a list of articles, which is by default empty list, and let's make it mutable list. Yeah, but private. Mutable list. And whenever someone calls get articles, we can do single dot just list. And whenever someone calls save articles, we can do something like completable dot from tolerable, and then here we can actually save the provided article list in this list. So list dot add all and article list, right? So we have our local data store ready, but we don't want to test it out right now because we are actually having a dummy implementation here, right? So that's why, and similar to the remote data store. So basically it won't return us any data for now. So an empty list. We are returning empty list from here. And in remote, you should not ideally be able to save the data, right? So we can return completable dot error unsupported operation exception or something like that, your choice. So why we are not throwing that error, rather we are emitting the error so that we can gracefully handle the error when we are calling these. Basically, we should not call it from any code because our remote data store dot save articles, but still we want to gracefully handle the error. And now we can start implementing it, right? So what we want, we first want local data store to return something. So we first want to check with local data store. Get articles. Now, if this returns empty, right? Or even if it returns data. So we want to flat map it to, or sorry, right? That is the ideal thought, right? But is it a good choice? When we are doing the flat map, even if the local data store returns the data, we are not passing it anywhere, right? So the best way to go about is merge. Now we call this, and then I think, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so this merge is not that much I was expecting. Merge with, yeah. So if you call merge with in single, basically it's same like single dot merge and passing two data sources. So what it will do, it will first fetch from the local data store, and then it will fetch from the remote data store, right? So I haven't implemented this yet. So this method actually should fetch from remote, save it in local, and return the remote data store object. So this should look something like remote data store dot get articles dot map completable, then local data store dot save articles, something like that. But there's a gotcha you will get here. So the problem is that it converts it to completable, right? So again, we can't use that because we want it to return the remote data. So we can go flat map, then and then is the operator that flat map has. Inside it, we'll just return the same data that we received here. Also, we are using RxJava 3 here. Let us go there and show you. We are using RxJava 3.0.2 along with that Rx Android 3.0.0. So yeah, there's no much change actually between RxJava 2 and RxJava 3. For new projects, you can just start using it. And if you want to migrate, it's fairly easy. You can start with using migration. So there's a bridge, RxJava bridge. I don't think I have it here, or I might have it as well. Yeah, this one, RxJava 3 bridge. So it actually helps you convert RxJava 3 wrappers to RxJava 2 wrappers and RxJava 2 wrappers to RxJava 3 wrappers. So if you want to migrate to your existing project, you can start using that. So yeah, implementation is done, right? Now let's run the test cases. What do you think? The test cases should pass or fail? Anyone have any opinion? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So anyone has
Come
any
on.
opinion? And I can't see that chat when I am presenting basically. So
So Vivek says the test cases will pass.
okay, let's see. I actually don't think so.
It should fail first.
Yeah, actually test cases failed because I am writing the implementation right now, but I think it should fail again. Let's see what happens. Some of them passed, some of them failed. So basically, when both of them emitted data, in that scenario, test cases passed. Now, why they failed, right? So let us get back to our implementation and let us go through each test and then get back to implementation and see what we did wrong. So this actually talks about when both the data both the data store emits data, right? And when emits empty data, right? So when both of them emits empty data, it should return an exception. That's what we want. It should emit an exception, not return. That's what we want. Now, if we go back to our implementation, sorry, we can close all other things and we can just have this repository and repository test case. Yeah, we are just merging it. We are not doing anything on the errors, right? So we can do something like we can go back to single dot merge. Then first is local data store dot get articles. Now next thing is that remote data store, or rather fetch and sync articles, right? Now what happens when uh, remote data store doesn't have data? So this will fail, right? So what we are doing here is that we are emitting empty list from both of them. So if it doesn't have data, it should fail, or we can have a check basically. So if it has data, so we should not call save, because ideally it should go to DB, right? So we should not we should have a filter before passing it to data, right? So we can just check if it is empty, return something else from here. Otherwise, we can do that. So what to do if it is empty? We can simply return single dot error empty result set exception. Basically, it says there's no data. And okay, but what happens if local data store returns empty list? So we can ignore that. Probably remote will handle, right? Now let's run the test again and see if it solved our issue. Yeah, so first case is now passed. Now look at the second context, second group. So local data store emits empty data, right? Second case is still failed. We should only emit the remote data store data. So if local data store is empty, we should ignore that, right? So we can do something like on error, what to do? On error return, if we do, it's still same, right? So we can go about on error resume next, and then we can fetch it from remote. Now here's the problem, or it is called twice. So here if local data store returns error, this will be called, and even if local data store, like this will be called, and this again will be called, right? So we want to solve that as well. So we can again go back to this thing. We can make it to flowable. Sorry. Right. Or we can make that as well. Then we can do a merge here. And then we can do on error resume next this. And we need to turn it to flowable. Yeah. Now what happens? So if local data store has data, we'll continue with the merge, right? If local data store doesn't have the data, if it returns empty list, we'll continue with the merge. If local data store gets an error, we come here. But what we have here, local data store is returning empty list. It's not returning error. So we can have a flat map here because we don't want empty list to return to go on to our view, right? So view will think, yeah, there's data. We have we'll change the loading state to success state, but data is empty. That doesn't make sense. And we can handle it in view by checking if the data is empty or something like that. But then we'll be adding a lot of logic to the view, whereas it should be handled in the repository or view model, right? So because it is basically a data fetching logic, so it should be in repository. If it is empty, basically it's same as this one, just we don't want to do this thing. We can directly have this single dot just. Yeah, so if it is empty, we are emitting an error, and if it is not empty, we are just returning the same data. So let's run the test cases and see what happens. So this one passed, first test case passed, second test case passed, fourth test case passed. We now only have the third one. So what does the third one says? It says that if the remote data store emits empty data, then what should happen? Then we should only have the local data store data, right? Now here's the tricky part. So what we want is that remote should also like if either of them emits a data, we should have them. If both of them emits error, we should have or empty error, we should have the error. If like so basically if both of them are empty, we should have the error. If either of them have emit data, we should have the data. If both of them emits data, we should have both the data. So we should have first the local and then the remote. So how to do that basically? So basically, let's consider one thing here. When local data store emits data, when will the flow go and where will they go? So it will go basically from this, from here to this flat map, and then it will get, yeah, it has data. It will, the isempty will return false, right? So it will come to this single dot just, and then it will come to this merge with, and in the merge with it will come here. It will check the data. If it has the data, it will return, but in our case it doesn't have the data, so it will return error, right? If local data store has data, it will never ever come to this on error resume next part, right? So we can basically ignore the error from here. So basically we can do something like on error return empty list probably, and then we can add a filter to not have an empty list. So yeah, this should ideally do it, right? Uh, yeah, singular, yeah, but it shows some error. So yeah, it says that it's changed to maybe. So yeah, basically on error return is not the way. We should go with on error return item. Yeah, here this should go, and the filter actually returns uh, what to do from here. So we can have the filter here. So basically, if for local data store, it will never come to like this filter will never be like it's not needed because if local data store is empty, we are checking it here only, right? If local data store is not empty, then it will come here. It will check from remote. If remote is empty, right? So then it will just ignore it. It will return empty list from here. If remote is empty, it will ignore it, because if local has data, we want to ignore any exception in remote. We just want to have the remote data if it is available there, right? Now let's check the test cases again. Yeah, all of them are passing. As you can see, all of them are passing. So we can write a test case for this other method here, but it doesn't make sense, right? Because we already implemented it. Why we didn't follow TDD, right? For this method. But is it? Because if you look at it in other way, this method is used inside this method, right? And twice. So by testing this method, so when we test this method and that method uses some other methods implementation, that other methods implementation is also tested if you write the test cases properly, right? So what we wanted to have error if remote, if both data stores returns empty data, right? So we have it here. If both data store returns empty data, remote will return or emit error from here. Without these, if we remove these, this test case will fail, right? So this method is already tested to this method. So that's why we said we should have a plan how we want to go with the flow. Now we are done with the repository, right? Now let's move ahead with view model. So here we have articles view model. We don't have any existing test cases for that, and yeah, we are basically done with that example. I kept it only to show you this example. We can remove this or let it stay for now. Yeah. Now what we are doing in the view model is that we are basically following MVI. So that's why we have intent, we have state, we have action, we have result. But ignore all those. We just want few things. So basically, this view model will subscribe to actions. Let us see it in action. So, I wrote it wrong. Yeah. So here we are observing to the live data, right? We also need to do another thing. We need to basically bind it. So for binding, we basically what we want is that, so this activity should have a publisher. So this activity should publish its event to the, or pass its events as a Rx to the view model, and view model then should emit states based on that. So activity or UI will emit intents, and uh, the presenter module or view module will emit state, updated state based on that. So here we can have a publish subject, uh, that will have, say, initial intent, right? Or we can have, say, load intent, right? Getting publish subject is fairly easy. Publish subject dot create, and then here we'll pass it like that. Now we wanted observable. We are getting publish subject, so it is confused. So we call height work. Yeah. So we wanted it on articles intent. We are publishing it on a child class. That should not be an error. Yeah, load intent, articles intent is implemented. Yeah. So we can use a method called cast, and yeah, it is casted like that. Yeah. So we are view model is now listening to these intents. Now, when we want to load the data, right? So we can have a button. When user clicks that button, we want to load the data. Now, UI implementation is on us. So we can fire this event whenever we want. So we want to load the data in the on period only. So we will just write publish subject dot on next, and then we'll just pass this in the on next. So we fired the event in on create. Now view model should return the or should listen to that event and emit the state. Now let us start with writing the view model test cases, right? So basically Android Studio doesn't know how to write Spek test cases. So there are a couple of plugins out there, but most of them are using backdated Spek versions like Spek 1. So what I do is that I just go as normal Command Shift T to write the test cases, create new test, and I generally select JUnit 5, and I don't tick any of them. If you want, you can do that, but I don't generally tick any of them. And okay, where I want to write the test cases, I want to write in the test folder. Okay, so this internal class is created. Okay, now I will remove this. I don't want Jupyter or all those things. What I want is that Spek. Now Spek has a constructor, and that constructor expects a lambda. Yeah, that's all. Now we can go back to the way of testing. We can write the test cases here, and we can do that. So view model has a dependency on action processor. Now we can mock the action processor, but action processor is actually an implementation that we want to check. So we can do it two ways. So we can mock the action processor here, and we can test out the action processor separately. But what I do generally is that I check the action processor and view model together. It is basically a part of view model. Just to keep it clean, I am separating part of the view model into another class, and I am calling that action processor. So we have action processor. Or rather, we can have articles action processor only. So this is basically not a mock. Now action processor depends on repository and scheduler provider. So what is scheduler provider? Basically, if you look here, we are using schedulerprovider.io instead of scheduler.io. Now, why is that? So when RX schedulers are involved, there are multiple ways to test, make it testable, right? One is that you can have the RX scheduler configuration and make a rule and use that. And the other thing is that you can just have an interface that will provide you the scheduler. So yeah, we have it here. I will show you. So yeah, here's the action processor, and here's the interface that actually says, yeah, I will return you IO scheduler, I will return you computation scheduler, I will return you UI scheduler, whenever you want, whatever you want. And here's the implementation. Basically, it's a kind of a bridge that I'm using between the actual scheduler and or schedulers and and when I'm actually using that scheduler, it actually makes the test more readable. And so some people prefer having the RX test scheduler. You can have that. I prefer it that way. It's a personal opinion and nothing else. So I want mock scheduler provider. Since I'm not using RX RX test rule for that, I will be using mock test scheduler provider. So, or I can also have a fake one that actually lets me have a fake one as well. So let's do fake and show how it can be done. So in presentation, I can create a new Kotlin filer class and name it fake scheduler provider. And I will implement scheduler provider here. I will take a RX scheduler instance from here. Sorry, RX test scheduler. Yeah. So this is the test scheduler we have. Now why I have taken instance, I will explain later. And I will implement all the members. And for each one of them, I will return this one only. Oh, and or we can do it later. We can just use schedulers.trampoline for now. So basically schedulers.trampoline schedules it on the same scheduler. Okay. So I have mistakenly used RxJava 2 once. Yeah. So basically I want RxJava 3 once. And yeah, I have it. And or if you prefer Rx test schedulers, we can have that as well. Basically your choice. You can either use trampoline or you can use test scheduler. Whatever you want to use, it's totally your choice. So we have our fake scheduler provider here, and we'll need a test scheduler for that. Sorry, I typed text instead of test. Make sure to choose the Rx one. So Rx2 ones are coming because I have the bridge dependency here. So, and if you are using Room, then you will need the bridge because Room doesn't yet support RxJava 3 yet. We have the fake scheduler provider, and the other dependency we have from action parser is the repository. So we'll obviously mock the repository. Mock articles. Parser. Have it like that. So we'll provide mock repository and we'll provide scheduler provider. But wait, we saw something about memoist, right? Now the thing is, if we keep it like that, it will be using the same instance for all the test cases. Now we don't want that, right? After one test case, we often want to reset everything. So that's when we want the before block, right? So we can have that as well with Spek. So before each group we can use, and we can pass all the initializations here there, and we can declare the variables here. Similarly, fake scheduler provider, and similarly mock repo. We can just remove the vals from here. Sorry. Basically, we need to turn them into var now. We basically don't need to use the latinate thing because here it is within a method kind of thing, within a block. So you can just skip that part. But we'll get the same exception if we don't initialize it before. Now we want the view model, right? Again. So we can remove the articles cursor from here, and we can, since we don't want to test that separately, we can pass it directly here. Yeah, so I have that. Now, so what we want to test is that I want to test the initial intent or the load intent. So what happens the load intent? So I will tell you details what exactly is the flow. So here we have intents, right? So view will fire load intent. Now view model will convert that to load action. So view can fire load intent or reload intent. In both cases, view model will convert that to load action, and then action processor will take that action and start respective operation through the repository, right? And after that, action processor will give us result that for that action we have that result. So we have load result, we have success is a possible result, failure is a possible result, and in progress is the result that we'll start with, right? Now here uh, after that we have state. So if we get the success result, view model should pass the success articles to here, and if we get the error result, view model should pass the error details to here. When we are in the loading result, view model should set the loading state here. Is loading should be true, and this is the initial state when there is no articles, when there is no error, when it is not loading as well. This is the initial state. So let us write the test now. Sorry, I mistakenly opened repository test. Yeah. So context is that you emits load intent, right? Or rather, we can say repository returns data, because it is here test load intent, or here we can have view emits load intent, right? And then repository returns data. Then what do we want to test? View model should update the state, right? Now for that we need to subscribe to the live data. So we need a live data observer. So this one, life cycle one, and it also has a type. So here it is basically will observing to the state changes through live data. Yeah, we have the live data observer. We need to create an instance. So we will be using mock here as well, and then we need to observe to that. We'll be using observe forever. Then we'll be passing this live data observer. Now, here's the thing. If we run the test, the first thing we'll be facing is that an exception, because it always takes the thread. So we need to set up live data testing. So I will copy some code from my previous example. I will explain it. Yeah. So what we are doing is that we are setting up as architecture task executor. So basically, it will run everything immediately, and it will say, yeah, it is main thread. Basically, when you are using JUnit test cases instead of Spek, there is a rule for that, but in Spek we don't yet have the rule. So that's another gotcha for Spek, but this one is easy to set up. Now we will also another thing, view model doesn't yet listen to any of the events, right? So what we want is that we'll emit the events separately during the test cases. So we can say something like that: before group, we can do view model dot process intents. Then we can just have observable dot just, it should be RS3 observable, and then we can pass articles intent dot load intent, right? Yeah, so it says variable it must be initialized, so let's use let init. Let's use let init for all of them. Now we have that ready. Now what are we testing? That it should emit success state, right? Now there's another thing. We are emitting the load intent, right? But we are not taking care of what the repository will return. So repository is mock. So we are using whenever mock repo dot get articles, then return. We have to pass the data. Right? We have to pass the data. So let's get some data, dummy data here. So dummy article list. Now, where did this dummy article list came from? So it's basically I wrote an algorithm to generate 10 random articles for me, random dummy articles for me. So here I'll be emitting that. So if repository.get articles is called, we'll get the data. That's for sure. Now, this one should be actually moved to bottom here. So that's when we actual event is happening. Now, what we should check is that we should check that observer, live data observer dot on change gets called. Now, what should have been called? So first would be initial state, just is loading will be true. So first it should set it to loading state, set the state to loading. Then should set the state to success. Have the same list of data that's returned by the repository. Right? Now we are running the test cases and it should fail ideally because Vue model doesn't have any code. Everything is to do there. Yeah. An operation is not implemented yet to implement. So it actually came to here and it told that. So let's implement the Vue model, right? And check if the test cases are running, getting success. So let's go to our articles Vue model and implement it. I have actually the implementation ready. So let us first check if the test case is getting success, and later on I will explain it. No, it's still not getting success. Why? Arguments are different, right? So we have an empty list. Is loading is equal to false. Why is that? Let us see what's happening. Let us first understand what's the different in the test case, and then, or if we just remove that, is it is getting set to loading first. Let us see that. Yeah, it's getting set to loading first, but after that it is the success state is not coming. Loading is getting false, but articles is getting an empty data, right? So what's happening there? So we can just move it. So basically what's happening here is that we have an intent filter, right? And that will filter our events. And yeah, before that, let us also check another thing. So it might be some threading issue as well, right? So let us check if the success one is, if we remove loading, success one is coming. No, it is not emitting success on any case, right? So let's get back to it and debug what's happening. So this is the reducer basically. So it should return the results. Now, here's the thing. It will get the result from the processor, and then it will pass on that to the state. So if it is loading, it should set loading to true. If it is success, it should pass the articles list to the state, error to null and loading to false. If it is failure, it should pass the error to the state error details and set loading to false, right? So here everything is all right. Now let us go to the processor and check what's happening. So here's the data, right? So if repository.get article is successful, it should get the article list, right? If it is failure, here if you can see, if it is failure, it should get the error details, and it should by default start with in progress. So it seems that everything is fine here, right? So let's why not put a debug point and check why is it failing. So you can easily debug our test case here as well. So you can, if you want to, so far here we have only one test case, but if you have 10 test cases, you can just, and you want to debug this one, right? You can just debug this from here. Now let's see what's happening. If we are getting the data from here, debug point didn't actually came. Let's do it again. Yeah, it didn't came. So what's happening? Let us put a debug point here and let's see if it is getting called at all. Yeah, repository.get articles is getting called, right? Let us put a debug point on error and start with item as well. And then run that, release it. So start with got called, and then none of them are going through. Now, why is that? Because it's simple. As I said, it's a threading issue. We didn't started the test scheduler. So basically with test scheduler, you can do a lot of things, including you can start the scheduler the moment you want, and you can stop it the moment you want. Also, you can advance time. So if you are dealing with, say, for example, you are dealing with observable.timer or observable.interval or any one of them, you can use test scheduler to advance time. So now let us run the test case and see what happens. It's still not there. So here actually says what all are called. Is loading true is called, and this is not called. So let us put a, we have the debug point. Let us debug again and see if now it comes here. So here it came. In progress got called, but then nothing is happening. So yeah, we can keep on debugging like that and see what's happening. We can also put a debug point here, and we can check uh, if if success is coming at all or not, or if error is coming and we are taking that as subject as success. We can do all those things. Yeah. Nothing is getting called. I'm not really sure what is happening here, to be honest. Uh, Ideally, it should, like after teststudio.start, it should get called. Also, if you are using teststudio.start, you should clean that up. So you can use after each group and then testscheduler dot stop shutdown. We can use it after each group. Yeah. So that was live we did. The test cases for view model didn't pass. I am not sure what happened, to be honest, but we can keep on debugging that. Yeah. So now I will get back to my slides again, so that I can share some of the resources for you.
So, while you do that, I think you did such a wonderful live coding session. Minor problems may occur, and yeah, we all have experiences, right? Things sometimes just do not work in live coding.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but
Uh,
Rivu will be sharing the resources with you right now.
yeah. So okay. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, here are the resources that I promised. So I wrote a blog on Spek. You can use that. And I forgot to add one more. So I have a demo on all these. Uh, so basically, I have a movie search kind of project that's there. So I will share it in the chat here. So yeah, you can go there and check basically, and I will also publish this project after some time. Basically, what I'm planning to do is that I want to create, like I will add some APIs and details, and then I will publish it. So yeah, this project will also go live, and when it does, I will share it with the organizers of Kotlin Mumbai, and also in my website. And the slides I will publish to speaker deck, and it will be published in my website. Like it will be, I will share the link to my website and also with the organizers of Kotlin Mumbai. So you can get it from either from my website or from Kotlin Mumbai channels. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
If
be
you
doing.
have, sorry,
We'll be
sorry to
tweeting.
interrupt.
Sorry to interrupt. We'll be tweeting out review slides too, so you can take a better look at it.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, you can ask me if you have time.
Yeah, sure. Questions are will come to you. Would love to answer them. So
Yes. So I think Anirudh had a question.
Mhm.
In the chat, he is asking if he's saying he is only looking at mocks and in the test cases, the implementation details are not there. So is it that we are testing the behavior?
Yes, yes. We are actually not testing the implementation details are not there. Means so. Can you explain a bit? So what we are doing here is that we are testing specifications. So we are testing if we pass that data, we should get that data. That's what we are testing.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
So I had a question.
yeah.
Um, so I've seen that Spec is based on JUnit runner, right? So
JUnit 5
uh,
runner, yes.
yeah. So is there any support if, let's say, I want to write my tests in some other runner, like maybe Spring JUnit? So how can I easily do that? Is there any support for it?
No, Spek supports only JUnit 5 runner on Android, and it's actually needs a couple bit of tweaking. That's why I have that I explained in my blog. But yeah, in Spring I think you can use Spek. I am not sure. I haven't used Spek in uh, somewhere else than Android. So I'm not sure, but Spake was basically created for keeping multi-platform in mind. Spake 2, not Spake 1. Spake 1 was created keeping JVM in mind, but Spake 2 was created keeping multi-platform in mind. So I think all the Kotlin platforms are supported with Spake in some way or other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions from the audience? You could just unmute yourself. That works too.
Yeah,
I guess there are
yeah.
no more questions.
Okay.
So Rivu, how much of Spec and this TDD do you guys do at BYJU'S?
Spec we don't do. As I said, Spec is not yet there, completely ready for prod using.
Correct,
Right.
right.
So we don't use Spec. We use JUnit 4 for unit testing, and TDD we follow. I can't say we completely follow TDD because we have a legacy project, right? And
Right.
and that didn't have much test from when it came. So we are right now adding test cases slowly. But whatever new code we write test cases for them.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So it is more of that, don't go fixing and writing test cases for everything that is legacy,
exactly.
but right, do something for the new stuff at least.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, whenever we might change the legacy code base for like not introduce a variable, but whenever it needs a makeover for some reason, then only we write it in a clean way with the test cases. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. So I guess that was end of questions.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really liked talking here at Kotlin Mumbai. I want to visit some Mumbai again some in future. Let's see
Definitely.
how it goes. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, let's hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you are here, Rivu, you are welcome. We will, do something. Let's have a meetup or some sorts. And
Yeah,
then,
sure.
needless to say,